Good morning, everyone. We will begin shortly. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will begin in just a minute. We'll allow everyone to join in, and then we'll be beginning our presentation. Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal Nettles. I am with the Orange County Water District, and I am thrilled you are joining us today for our webinar, Soarin over the Surface Recharge System. Before we get started, we just have a few items to go over. We have an exciting and robust program for you today, but first I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. As a webinar attendee, you are muted, and this is to reduce background noise. Should you have a question for our speakers, please type your question into the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. You may also use the raise hand feature. To keep the webinar moving, speakers will wait until the end of the presentation to answer questions. Written questions will be answered first, followed by those raising their hand. Please check how your name is listed so that we can address you correctly when we read your question. And in the event we run out of time and don't get to your question, or if you have any follow-up questions, you are welcome to email us at info@ocwd.com. Finally, this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording via email tomorrow. Before we get started, I would like to introduce our speakers, John Bonsangue and Pamela Galera. John Bonsangue is the Director of Recharge and Wetland Operations for the Orange County Water District. He provides operational oversight of the Talbert Barrier, Prado constructed wetlands, field headquarters recharge facilities, and the district's distribution facilities. John is a licensed California professional geologist with more than 20 years of experience working on Southern California groundwater projects. He is a licensed State of California Department of Health Services water distribution operator and holds a bachelor's degree in earth science from the University of California at Santa Cruz. Pamela Galera is the Anaheim Parks Manager and is a licensed landscape architect with an undergraduate degree from Cal Poly Pomona and a master's in public administration from Cal State Fullerton. Pamela previously served the City of Orange and the Orange County Transportation Authority. Recently, Pamela has been working to expand the Anaheim Riverwalk to enhanced groundwater recharge opportunities, provide recreation and connectivity, enhance the ecology of the region, and catalyze economic development. Thank you both so much for being here today. At this time, I would like to turn over the presentation to John Bonsangue, who will begin.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you very much, Crystal. I'm delighted to be here. I can't see myself on the screen. Can you folks see me? Am I present? Okay, I'll take that as yes. Okay, so as far as the presentation goals for today go, I just want you all to sit back and relax and enjoy an aerial tour of the surface recharge system. Last month, we completed a operations manual for the recharge system, and it's about a 200-page document, and and uh, and several really spectacular aerial images came out of this document. And so we handpicked a few of these aerial photographs for this presentation today. So it's non-technical. I just want you to relax, enjoy a flyover, learn a little bit of history about the OCWD. You're going to understand how and why water flows uphill in Orange County. You'll get to meet some of the folks behind the scene, and then you'll be able to see how the city of Anaheim works with the public and with our agency to provide some really amazing local recreational facilities for our community. So once again, just a reminder, this is not a technical presentation by any means, but if you would like a technical presentation on any of the recharge facilities, surface or injection, please get back to us and let us know. We appreciate your feedback, and we'd be more than happy to cater to a more technical presentation if that's what you'd like. So moving right along, so the surface recharge operation started in the early 1930s in Orange County. And what you're looking at there is a picture of the Santa Ana River in Anaheim from that 1930 timeframe. And boy, it's just amazing to me to see how little development there is and how much agriculture there was back at that time. And of course, water is very necessary for that agriculture. So at this point, we're going to do a little bit of a video flyover first to give you a, let's call it a 40,000 foot view of the recharge system on video. And then we'll start looking at individual basins individually on still shots. So here we go. If you have vertigo, you might want to skip this part of the presentation. It's about 1.5 minutes, and sometimes it makes people a little uneasy. So we're here behind the Prado wetlands. This is the beginning of our recharge system. Prado Dam is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they've been very helpful in letting us store water. So when there's storms, water gets stored behind Prado Dam, and then it flows down through the Santa Ana Canyon, like you just saw, into our recharge facility in Orange County. And the very beginning of our recharge system would be the Imperial head gates that we're flying over right now. And that splits the flow stream into an off-river component to the right and the main river component to the left. And then from the off-river, we can further divert water into different individual basins. We're flying over some of those basins right now. Anaheim Lake is one of our larger basins that you can see in the middle of the screen. We look out, you can see La Palma Basin to the left, Mira Loma. Those are both dedicated to primarily to the recycled water. And we're going to move back into the river, flying down the carbon diversion channel. We're going to pick the main river up again with the off river. Burris Basin is coming into view here. And now we're going to take about 1.5 mile trip over to the Santiago Basin, which is at about an elevation 150 feet higher than the main river. So we have to pump ourselves up there. At this point, I'd like to just remind you that most of this system is a gravity feed system. So gravity is doing the work all the way till you get to Burris Basin, and then we'll use some pumps. So that the gravity is a nice feature because it really keeps the cost of the water down for the consumer. So back in since 1936, the district has purchased nearly 1,600 acres for recharge, for surface spreading recharge. And this map shows a little color code of the timing of when those when the land was purchased and where the land is. Okay, you'll bear with me here. I'm trying to, here we go. Okay, great. So let's take let's start at the head gates here. This is just downstream of where Imperial Highway crosses the Santa Ana River. This is where we get our first opportunity to divert the water into our spreading basins. We have this inflatable rubber dam, which is inflated in this image, and that dam is critical. It allows us to bypass water right around the dam, as shown in the orange arrow there, or move water into the off-river system, as shown with the second orange arrow there. And once it's into the off-river system, it can move by gravity downstream. And I also want to just note that the Santa Ana River is a wonderful percolation facility. So that's why we like to use that, and we have that ability to bypass around the rubber dam. The Santa Ana River can percolate up to 70 cubic feet per second. It's just a wonderful tool. And the district owns about 6.5 miles of river channel. Prior to 1990, we didn't have that fancy rubber dam, and to divert the water, our crews would have to go out with bulldozers and build sand dikes, and that would be a very cumbersome operation. And if the flows got too large, the sand dikes would blow out. Here's an image from back in that time period when the sand dikes were being employed to divert water off the Santa Ana River. So we're kind of coming down the off river here. You can see the Santa Ana River to the left. Weir Pond 3 is at the bottom of the screen, and then Lakeview Avenue for our nice landmark. So the water travels under Lakeview Avenue into Weir Pond 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Once it's here in the Weir Pond 4, it can be sent a number of ways into various directions. It can be sent over to the Warner system. It can be sent into the Santa Ana River here to the left. Or it can be sent to the upper off river system, which is just below Weir Pond 4. And there's an interesting riverbed filtration research project going on in this part of the upper off river system. And if any of you are interested in a technical topic, that would be a wonderful, area to explore, and potentially a future webinar. Adam Hutchinson does a great job with that project. So moving on into the Warner system now. This is Warner Basin, Conrock Basin, and Foster Huckleberry. So the water first flows into Foster Huckleberry, then into Conrock, and then into Warner, all by gravity. The interesting thing, and maybe some of you folks know this, is Warner Basin has a public fishing concession, and so does Conrock Basin. And that would be an enterprise called the Santa Ana River Lakes. And it's open for the fishing for public. I've fished it, it's wonderful. It's world record trout season right now that just started over this weekend, and they stock some really big trout. Also in Foster Huckleberry, there's a model radio controlled airplane club that leases the right to land their radio controlled airplanes into this pond. So also the city of Placentia has some production wells along the shoreline of Conrock Basin here. Okay, so after the water moves through Warner Basin, it takes a big right turn and kind of follows Tustin Avenue over to our deeper basins there, Anaheim Lake. For your reference, there's the freeway there, 91 freeway. Let's see, the 60-inch gravity feed pipeline is going underground, and it's going towards the north. So let's take a look at where it ends up. It ends up in Anaheim Lake. And if you can see my cursor here, there's a depression right here, and that's where the 60-inch line daylight. So the water travels from Warner right into Anaheim Lake this way. It's also important to point out that we also have an import water connection. So we take water from the Metropolitan Water District through this feature right here, and it takes this concrete spillway down into Anaheim Lake. This basin is equipped with dewatering pumps, so we can remove the water quickly, dry it out, and clean it, and have it back online with restored percolation. Some interesting facts: that this is one of our larger basins. It can store 2,260 acre-feet. The percolation ranges between 20 and 70 CFS in this basin, depending on the water quality. And the basin can receive the import water quality from the import water from metropolitan or the Santa Ana River flows. So as you can imagine, the Santa Ana River flows would represent the lower perk rates at about 20 CFS, and the imported water would percolate nicely at about 70 CFS. It's also interesting to point out that the city of Anaheim has some production wells along the shoreline of Anaheim Lake. And just so you know, these are very deep wells that are pulling from 800 feet or deeper. And this basin is less than 100 feet deep. So there's a lot of earth between the two water bodies. Miller Basin is another basin that we use to spread water. This basin can receive the recycled water from the groundwater replenishment system that you see the purple pipes here. It can also percolate Santa Ana River water. It can hold about 300 acre-feet of storage, and the percolation rates, range between 25 and 40 cubic feet per second here. What's interesting is the OCWD does not own this basin. This is a basin owned by the Orange County Flood Control District. So the primary purpose of this basin is flood control. Groundwater recharge is secondary. This is a cooperative project, though. It's a wonderful project between the two agencies. And like I mentioned before, it can receive the recycled water or the Santa Ana River water. Kraemer Basin is another one. It can also receive GWS water or Santa Ana River water. It has its own inlet structure there off to the left. It has a dewatering pump, so we can pump this one down quickly, dry it out, get it online, or clean it out and get it online again for maximum percolation. Some interesting facts about Kraemer Basin is it's got about 1,170 acre-feet of storage. It can percolate between 30 CFS and 70 CFS, and it is owned by the Orange County Water District. La Jolla Basin, this is a wonderful basin that is small but powerful. That's a nice tool for us in our toolbox. This basin is situated right along Carbon Creek, and you can see it has its own little rubber inflatable dam, and that's how the water makes its way out of Carbon Creek and into the basin. And it does have its own dewatering pump, so we can drain this basin, dry it, clean it, and get it back online quick for advanced percolation rates. And here we have here's a piece of heavy equipment, and one of our OCWD heavy equipment operators working hard cleaning this basin when this photograph was taken. Some interesting facts about this basin: can store about 18 acre-feet, can percolate anywhere between 5 and 20 CFS. It is owned by OCWD. Even though it's small, it really helps us when we try to clean some of the larger basins and we get in a pinch for where to move some of this water. Boy, this La Jolla Basin is a real nice tool to have in our toolbox. And it can receive import and storm flow water. Placentia Basin is a pass-through basin here that's owned by the Orange County Flood Control District, but again, it's a joint project, so they're allowing us to use it in the non-storm season for water conservation, which is a wonderful bond that we have formed with the Flood Control District. You can see Carbon Creek here along the right. Here's your inlet structure. Here's your outlet structure flowing right back into the creek. It can perk up to 10 CFS. It is owned by the Orange County Flood Control. Interesting here, this one receives it receives some flow from a North Groundwater Basin Improvement Project. So there's a groundwater cleanup project. It's just below the bottom of the screen. You can't quite see it, but they're taking impurities out of the groundwater, and the water then is released back into Placentia Basin to percolate back into the aquifer system. Raymond Basin is kind of the end of the line for us along Carbon Creek. It's also owned by the Orange County Flood Control District. Here's Carbon Creek right here. It kind of passes right along this high ridge and then moves on down this way. But these are overflow spills for really high duration storm events. We're allowed to spill water at certain times of the year and store water here for percolation. And that's also a wonderful cooperative project with the Orange County Flood Control District. This basin can percolate up to 10 CFS. It receives the storm flow, and it does use the channel capacity, so it's kind of a win-win. The spillway and heavy flows we won't need to do this, but when the flows are low, the staff will have to go out and insert some board, and they'll insert some rather heavy boards. It takes a couple guys to install them, and it'll force the water to come down this concrete spill structure and into the basin. So now let's move on to our newest basin. This is La Palma Basin. This basin is right along the carbon diversion channel, and it receives strictly recycled water from the Orange County Water District's groundwater replenishment system project. It's a beautiful water. It's very clear, as you can see. Interesting facts about this basin: it was completed in November of 2016. It can store 97 acre feet, and it has a percolation, max percolation of 90 CFS, so that's really high. In the first 2 years, we started flowing to this basin over 100,000 acre feet, and it's just amazing. Also, something unique about this basin is it has a split design. It has a center berm. This was done to be able to clean one side and still percolate during the other, and that was a really interesting feature. Also, there's a local brew pub that popped up along the shoreline after we started flowing water into this basin. I think they're called All American Ale Works, I believe. All American Ale Works, and they're right off La Palma there in Anaheim. And I haven't been there, but I've talked to some folks who have, and they say it's A+ beer over there. So maybe you'll go check it out. And one last interesting thing is this waterfall structure here. This is how the water comes into the basin. We're going to close up on that a little bit so you can see it. So the water actually goes up this concrete structure and then spills, forms a little waterfall, and then enters in the basin this way. Miraloma Basin is another basin that was built for recharging the groundwater replenishment system water, or the recycled water. Here's an aerial view looking down the carbon diversion channel. Here's the inlet structure here, and this basin is also equipped with the dewatering pump, so it can be evacuated quickly, cleaned, and put back online. Some interesting facts about this basin: it can receive the recycled water, imported water, or river water. It has a storage of 97 acre feet. It has a wide perk range because it can receive so many different qualities of water. And it was recently leased for recreation for a water park, an aqua park that will be coming next year. So look for that. And right here, you can kind of see a little depression that we excavated out for some future inflatable water play toys that will be anchored into here. And there'll be a beach here with some parking. And I would highly encourage you to come check us out. I think in May of 2021 is when they're hoping to open that facility. Okay, Now we just come down the carbon diversion channel here. We're back into the Santa Ana River. And look, here's another inflatable dam. This is the Five Coves inflatable dam. When it's up, it can move water right around and back into the river channel, like that arrow shows there, or it can move water into Upper Five Cove Basin, or what we call the lower off-river system, as shown in this arrow right here. So here's the upper off-river up here, and we can also flow water under the carbon diversion channel into Upper Five Coves Basin. And I know there's a lot going on here, but one last point to feature to point out is this concrete structure here. This is a grade stabilization structure used by that was installed by the Army Corps of Engineers to help prevent radical erosion of the bottom of the riverbed during high flow events. So that's a lot. So we're going to take another perspective on this, kind of a little bit different angle. So you're kind of coming down the carbon diversion here. Here's the rubber dam. And a few things I kind of wanted to point out here is the water district partnered with the county to provide the land to build a public bike trail. It's a wonderful, wonderful trail on this side of the river. And the water district partnered with the city of Anaheim to provide a wonderful, wonderful park and trail along this side of the river here. It's called the Five Coves Park, and I think we'll be doing a deep dive on that a little later. But what I'd like to point out is this center levee here. This is a utility access road, and it's private. And I would strongly encourage people not to walk or bike along here. I would use here or here, the two banks for maximum safety. There's bulldozers that are driving here during the day, and there's been close calls, to say the least. So public recreation has been built on both sides, and it's really awesome stuff. I'm a cyclist, and I can tell you firsthand, it's really well done. So moving down, so here's the lower Five Coves Basin. We're going to go under Lincoln Avenue now into Lincoln Basin. Now we've passed through Lincoln Basin, and we're going to go into Burris Basin here. So Burris Basin is a rather large basin. We'll do a little drill down here just for reference. Here's the Santa Ana River. Maybe a close up here on Burris, a little closer look. We could not get any closer, incidentally, because there's no fly zone here for our drone. But I wanted to make sure you're able to see the pump station here, the transfer pump station. There's also a bird island here, earthen bird island, and then there's a floating bird island here that we use. Some interesting facts about Burris Basin. There's inside this building here, there's four 1,750 horsepower pumps that combined can move 200 cubic feet per second and lift it 150 feet in elevation up to Riverview, Fletcher, or Santiago Basins. Also, this area is a bird refuge, and there's that wonderful public trail called Anaheim Cove that starts in this area along the west shore. Here's an older picture that I threw in here. Many of you may have seen these berm features when you're driving along the 91 freeway, kind of scratching your head, wondering what the heck is that? So this is the main Santa Ana River channel. Here's Burris Basin. And we build these berms, we call them T&L levees, and they're constructed in the river to channel the flow up, down, and cross stream. And we do this to increase the amount of time the water has with the sediments in the riverbed to maximize the percolation. So if you'll follow along with me here, we'll see if I can get this animation to work on the flow direction. So the water starts out flowing, I'm sorry, so downriver. So that's the downriver direction. And then it hits that berm and it moves sideways. And then it hits the next berm and it has to go upstream. Then it hits the next berm and it has to go cross stream again. and then it hits the bank, and it has to go all the way downstream. And then the cycle repeats itself all the way down. So there's a crew of wonderful people that you're going to meet here in just a minute that are responsible for creating these berms. And they do get washed out quite often when flows pick up, and they have to be rebuilt several times throughout the year. Should also mention that these levees are also, they also provide a great nesting and roosting habitat for many of the waterfowl that we find in our area. This is Riverview Basin, just on the other side of the river from Burris Basin. It can take uh, a little bit of water off of that pipeline that's moving water up to Santiago. Interesting fact about Riverview, it can store 8 acre-feet of water, and it has a maximum percolation in the 10 CFS range. Fletcher Basin, very close to Riverview. This is a pass-through basin that's owned by the Orange County Flood Control District. You can see inflow comes in this way from Fletcher Channel, and then passes through the basin and exits back into Fletcher Channel this way. Some interesting facts here. This is a cooperative project, again, with the Flood Control District. Can receive flow from storm runoff. Can also receive flow from Burris Basin, and it has a maximum percolation of about 3 CFS. So the final resting spot for our recharge water are the Santiago basins, and there's 3 basins that combine actually to make the Santiago basins. The first basin is Bond Basin, then we have Blue Diamond Basin, and finally Smith Basin. There's a floating pump station in Bond Basin that's visible. And some interesting facts about this basin. This is our largest basin. It's capable of storing 13,000 acre-feet. Percolation in this basin has a wide range from 5 to 110 CFS. Most of the percolation comes from the side walls. This is a very deep basin. It's so deep that we cannot clean the bottom of this basin. We don't have the ability to evacuate the water all the way out. And so we know we get these amazing percolation rates right out of the sidewalls. Interesting fact, we had a really wet year in 2010, 2011, that winter, and it blew. This used to be an earthen saddle that separated these two, and they were connected by a pipe. Well, the flows were so great during this storm that it blew out this saddle, and we are now in the process of rebuilding this saddle. We were fortunate enough to secure some federal funding, and we'll be going after this project in this area real shortly, coming up in I think we're going to be starting next month, in January, I should say, January 21. So look forward to that. So now what I'd like to do is introduce you to the people that make this whole operation possible. And I refer to them as a family because we work so well together, and we do consider ourselves to be a family. But we also go by the name of the rechargers. So I'm going to introduce you to the rechargers by department. So the recharge system operators are led by Don Houlihan in the middle, Julio Land Garcia on the left, and Jeff Boudreau on the right. What's interesting to point out about these folks is they are the guys that are in charge of keeping track of where all the water goes. So they have a very important job, and they do a very good job of it. You have to be good in math for this job, and these guys are. And they're also very, very good at paying attention to detail. They're wonderful guys to work with. Our maintenance department, boy, we have so many facilities out here, not to mention vehicles and heavy equipment. And this is the group that's in charge of maintaining them. And they are really a wonderful group of folks. Honestly, I feel very fortunate to work with these guys. They come up with some of the most clever solutions I've ever seen. Just real out of the box thinking from all these folks. They're just wonderful. They're led up by Ray Abrahamson here on the left. Ray's a wonderful guy. He makes a great Santa Claus for our annual Christmas party. Manuel Castro just joined us from Fallon Valley. We're very, very lucky to have him. Very, very experienced technician. We have Tim Stevens here. He's a senior heavy equipment mechanic. And boy, this guy can tear down and rebuild anything mechanical. It's amazing. Danny Samal is one of our grade 3 techs for maintenance, and just a wonderful person. Can darn well fix anything. Pete DePlito, he's really our planner scheduler and maintains our warehouse for us. And Jeremy Evans works with Tim Stevens on the heavy equipment. He's a wonderful, wonderful mechanic. And then Chris Freiberg, who's awesome. He's really creative, comes up with some really good solutions to some challenges that we face out here. And he works with Danny and Manuel on the facility side. In terms of the heavy equipment operations, we have our latest piece of equipment here, our 950 loader, and standing on it here on the left is Matt Bias. Then we got Alex Cervantes and Mike Centro. We got Mark Petty right here. Tom Stevens is the leader of this group, and Jimmy Hawkins. And folks, let me tell you, these guys have the best work ethic I've seen. I mean, they're just every day so good about coming into work, making sure their equipment is properly running before they go out, and really they do a great job of cleaning our basins and making sure the water is channeled the way it needs to be channeled, and all of them are a pleasure to work with. In terms of ground maintenance, yeah, we have a lot of landscape to take care of, right? We got two wonderful gentlemen, Octavio Reynoso on the left, he's the supervisor, and Arturo Garcia on the right. And boy, are these guys busy. They do such a great job. When you're driving around looking at our facilities, if you notice how good they look, the landscaping, it's due to these two gentlemen right here. They're really wonderful. Out at the Prado wetlands, we have a crew of heavy equipment operators also. Here's their supervisor again, Tom Stevens. And we got Chris Wilson here on the left and Bill Bradbury here in the middle. Wonderful, wonderful guys, great work ethic. Really enjoy working with these folks. And last but not least, on the administrative side, you have me there on the left, and Esmeralda Uribe, or Esmer as we call her. And Esmer is pretty much the glue that holds the whole operation together. She remembers our birthdays. She puts inspirational messages on the refrigerator doors for us every once in a while. And she's always there to greet us with a smile and a wonderful attitude. And I'm so delighted to be able to work with Esmer. So at this point, I'm pretty much done on the surface recharge side, and I think I'm going to go ahead and let Crystal take over for our next speaker.
Apologies there as we turn remote control over to Pamela.
All right, I think I'm getting control. Do I have control? There we go. Hi, well, gosh, thank you, John. That's quite an act to follow, but it's my pleasure to talk to you all about water and land today. I'm the parks manager for the city of Anaheim, and I've had the pleasure of working with the Orange County Water District for the entire 14 years that I've been here. And I actually worked with the Orange County Water District when I was still at the city of Orange. And so I have so much respect for this organization. Oops, let's see. One thing that I think is very important, John went over all the complicated work that they've been doing, but it's my understanding that we are very uniquely placed in Orange County to have this incredible resource of our groundwater aquifer. And I do believe that in decades to come, Orange County will compete very well on the international market because we have this incredible resource. It's my understanding that other watersheds do not boast the groundwater recharge aquifer that we have. And so we all know that water is such a precious, precious commodity. And it's so important that we all work together for it. Some of the challenges that we're facing in Anaheim is urbanization. And as you know, sorry, technical difficulties. So the case for urbanization, we all have, folks, we have a housing crisis. Everybody knows it. And we have a problem with affordable housing. And so what we're seeing in Anaheim is actually more infill development. Drive around downtown or around the Platinum Triangle, and you can see a lot of great condos and apartments going in. Some of them are really nice. They're very high quality living. I would certainly consider living there. And by having this infill development, we are saving those green fields and saving that prime habitat out in the green fields. But there are costs of this. With this increased population and density in our urban areas, you know, there is a real strain on our park system. We are looking at a lack of parkland, and then of course a lack of a 10-minute walk. So the 10-minute walk is promoted by the Trust for Public Lands, and the opportunity for someone to walk 10 minutes to get to an open space, a trail, or a park. The other thing that we're seeing with urbanization is our lack of communing with nature. And so I encourage everybody that works in the development industry or works in the built environment at all to take a look at this book. And it's the idea of nature deficit disorder. So it's the idea that we as humans are suffering because we do not have that connection with nature anymore. All right. So we've got a lack of parkland, a lack of trails, a lack of connection with nature. What do we do about that? So what we have is, so in Anaheim, our city planners are looking at this opportunity. And of course, we're working very closely with other landowners in Orange County. We are working closely with the Orange County Water District, but also other utilities. And as John just explained, the Orange County Water District is the largest landowner in Orange County because of all the wonderful things that they're doing for our groundwater recharge system. But there's also an opportunity to use that land, to make that land open for the public. Okay, so that's a great idea. So it's going to be good for people. We have an opportunity to bring nature into the urban environment. It's active transportation. We've built these bike paths that somebody can take to school or to work. And it's just recreation and other opportunities to use this open space. Here's a lovely picture of Anaheim Coves. And not only are using this land good for people, it's good for the planet. And we all know about the opportunities for floodwater protection, for using permeable surfaces to grab all that flood water as it comes through. We're also looking at large expanses of land where we're going to have opportunities for habitat diversity. And so that is the way to bring nature into our urban environment. All right, so Anaheim Coves, we're so very, very proud of this project. And so this project starts here on Ball Road, goes through Lincoln and all the way up to Frontera. Our park is about 23 acres, but it is on the Burris basins that is well over 100 acres. And we worked with several property owners. So the city of Anaheim actually does not own any of this property. John was explaining how he works so closely with the flood control district, and so does the city of Anaheim. We also work closely with Southern California Edison to create this parkland. We also received a lot of grants. And so in the city of Anaheim, we are very creative about finding funding for both the construction and maintenance of these facilities. We did receive grants for the development of this large park, but it is paid for, the maintenance is paid for out of our general fund. And phase 1, which is between Ball and Lincoln, was opened in 2011. And phase 2 was opened just a little over a year ago. And so this is also the children's park that's very close to Frontera Street. So if you have children, I recommend you come and enjoy this nature park. And I am a big advocate for native plant material. Where possible, we all should consider using native plants, especially at this wildland interface here next to the river. And why are native plants important? Well, it's those folks that use it, and it's not the people, but it's the nature out there. The bird's nest there to the right is Alisbell's vireo, which is a very endangered bird. We're proud to host a home for this bird, along with others. This is, if you go to Anaheim Coves, you feel like you're not even in the city. It is a quiet place where you can meditate or read a book or enjoy your dog. We also have installed a lot of art, including poetry and haiku in the picture here to the left. But we find every opportunity that we can to install art. This is a place where people can get healthy. And also, as I said before, a place for active transportation. This is an opportunity for you to ride your bike to work or to school. And of course, we always think about children and finding opportunities to bring children back to nature and bring children out of their homes and off their devices out to a city park. All right, so this is a chance to tell the story. Sorry, shout out to those Hamilton fans out there. And this is an opportunity to tell our story. So along with the art, we also have interpretive signs all along this facility. And we worked really closely with the Orange County Water District to really get the story down of how important water is to Orange County. We also tell a story about how important our native birds are. This picture here is an osprey. Which we do have a family of ospreys there at Burris Basin. And again, this opportunity to tell the story about the watershed and how important water is. Now, these are panels that are set at the park. We're looking at other opportunities in the future to use your device and something like a QR code where you would actually be able to go online and find out more about the story that is out there, including the history of Anaheim. All right, so what's next? We're complete with Anaheim Coves. It's being used by the public. It's very loved. And so now we're working closely with the Water District to go south. And so Anaheim Coves is about 2.5 miles long north of Ball. Now we're looking for the opportunity to go south of Ball for about a 2-mile stretch. And so we've been working with quite a few other agencies, including the Flood Control District, about an opportunity to revitalize the river and actually create a river walk in this area, as many cities have. You can see in this picture that this facility is already used by bicyclists, but we'd like to open it up to others. So I know you can't read this map here, but I just wanted to assure you that the city of Anaheim is working hard to really visualize what could happen in this corridor. We have a lot of stuff going on. Recently, we've brokered a relationship with the Angels, where the Angels will be developing land around Angel Stadium, and also the Samueli Corporation, the Ducks, are developing OC Live, which is going to be near the Honda Center. The city of Anaheim is looking at opportunities to revitalize the river. And so that is going to be happening in the near future. If you'd like to find out more about that, please feel free to reach out to me. So I think I'm about out of time because I know we want to leave some time for questions and answers. However, here's my contact information. I know I was very quick, so if anybody has further questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll give it back to Crystal now.
Thank you so much, Pamela, and thank you, John, for that great information. And I did want to apologize for some of the technical issues and some of the pop-ups that were appearing on screen. Thank you guys both for handling that with such ease and professionalism, and apologize to our audience if that was distracting in any way. I would like to open it up now for questions. And I'm going to stop sharing so we can bring up the our speakers on screen. As a reminder, if you have a question, please type it into the Q&A box. You can also raise your hand. We will get to written questions first, and if we have time, we will get to those live questions as well. Our speakers have graciously agreed to stay on just a little bit past 1 o'clock, so if we do have an abundance of questions, hopefully we can get to them. And we did have some pre-submitted questions as well, but I did want to start off, John, with you. Could you go into a little bit more detail about the different sources of water we receive to replenish our groundwater basin, and how much flow do we receive from each of those sources?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. So the main source would be storm flow. Well, I'm sorry, base flow. Base flow is steady eddy. It's coming down the river continuously, and I think it can account for about half of the overall recharge portfolio in any given year, and it could be up to 100 acre feet. I'm sorry, 100,000 acre feet. And this is primarily wastewater discharges from upstream water treatment plants. Then after that would be the groundwater replenishment system water, the recycled water. And that could be up to 70,000 acre feet, I believe. And then beyond that, we have storm flow. When it does storm, it's nice. And we've had the last 2 years have been above average. This year, we're a little below average for this point in the year. And then we have import water. So we can purchase surface water from Metropolitan when they have an excess, and we have the funds available. And we've been able to average about 65,000 acre feet a year of import purchased water. And I'm sorry, I think I misspoke when I said groundwater replenishment system flows were 70. That was before the expansion. Now the groundwater replenishment system can contribute up to 100,000 for recharge.
And how many recharge basins does OCWD operate?
How many basins?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. I would have to, there's so many, I'd have to tally them all up and get back to you on that, but it's in the neighborhood of, it's close to 20, 18 to 20, I believe.
Excellent. So we did have a few questions come in prior to the webinar, so I'll continue with that. This question is for you, John. How will the groundwater recharge system provide long-term water independence and stability?
Yeah,
for long-term.
Okay, that's a great question. So the Army Corps, the partnership with the Army Corps, it does a lot to go a long way for long-term sustainability, because we're able to capture and store water behind the dam and then slowly bring it down at a slow, meaningful flow rate that we can percolate into the ground. If we didn't have that cooperative agreement, we would just lose so much stormwater to the ocean, and that would not be good for the long-term sustainability of our groundwater basin. But beyond that, the groundwater replenishment system really locks in Orange County as being a leader for long-term sustainable water management, because we're recycling our water to the tune of 100,000 acre feet a year. And that is just wonderful, because that water just keeps coming back to us year after year after year. So I think because of the partnership with the Army Corps and the groundwater replenishment system, Orange County is looking very stable for their future in terms of water.
The next question is, are there enough watersheds to save the rainwater, and are homeowners encouraged to save rainwater themselves?
Sure. Water conservation is always a good idea because we have the groundwater replenishment system and the agreement with the Army Corps to store water behind Prado. It is not as critical for somebody living in the Orange County Water District boundary to conserve water, but we certainly encourage it, especially on the rain side, the free water that comes out of the air. So go get those rain barrels from the Home Depot and set them up and use them. It's a great idea.
All right, our next question coming in. When the heavy equipment is cleaning the earth, it appeared the soil was moved. Is it also filtering, screening the soil?
Yeah, we did that in the past. That's a great question. We had a sand plant, and we would wash the sand, and we'd try to separate the silt from the sand and reuse the sand and haul away the silt. And that proved. So we did that for a number of years, and it proved to be not economical. So now we just scrape a very, very thin amount of earth off of the bottom, and that material is disposed of. And yeah, we do need to bring in material from time to time, sand material, so that we don't dig a hole to China. But we take very, very little amounts every time we clean. So we're cautious of that.
All right, the next question is regarding the bird island. Has it been successful in providing bird habitat, and how large is the bird island?
That's a great question for our natural resource folks. The bird island, the size of the floating bird island, I am not sure about. We'll have to get back to you. But when I do talk to the wildlife biologists, they do tell me that it is successful, but it is somewhat problematic too. As you can imagine, with everything in life, there's pluses and minuses. But the pluses here outweigh the minuses because we've been using that bird island successfully for a number of years, and we would have discontinued it if it was not successful.
All right, the next question. Is the water sent from the GWRS to the injection wells and spreading basins treated to the same level? What log removal for virus, crypto, and giardia does your state permit require?
Okay, so the first portion of that I can answer, and that is the recycled water is treated the same for both the spreading basins and for the injection well. And the second question regarding a parasite, I think called giardia, is that what you said, Crystal?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to punt that one to our regulatory director. I'm not sure what limit we're being held to on our permit for giardia.
All right, thank you, John. And for those of you who are asking questions that we may need to give a little bit more information, we do have your information, so we can follow up with you via email later this week. All right, our next question, you partially answered, but if you'd like to provide a little bit more detail on how you clean the basins.
Okay, sure. So the first thing we do is we stop water from flowing into the basin, and we'll try to let the basin percolate naturally down to a dry state. But typically, a basin is clogged, and that is the reason why we need to clean it. So a clogged basin doesn't percolate down very quickly, and time is money, as they say. And that's true in our business too. So we'll kick on pumps if we have pumps, and we'll move that water quickly out of the way. Then we're at the mercy of Mother Nature for about a week if it's sunny, or maybe 2 weeks if it's not so sunny, and let that soil on the bottom dry out really good before we move in our heavy equipment. And then what we'll do is we'll take a piece of heavy equipment called a motor grader, which is a metal blade that's very sensitive, and it can just take off, almost, I don't want to say millimeter level, but say inches, like it could take 1 inch to 1.5 inches off easily and just scrape the bottom off. and move it into these little windrows, these little rows. And then there's another piece of equipment called a paddle scraper that comes up and it picks up those little windrows or those little berms and those little berms are all the fine grained material that was doing the clogging. And then the paddle scraper will move those out of the basin. And then a bulldozer will be employed to climb the walls of the basin, and they'll scrape the first inch to inch and a half of sidewall material up to the top of the basin where it can be picked up and disposed of.
Thank you. All right, we have another question coming in. Do you have mosquito and vector control issues? Any impacts to water quality from methods used?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, vector control is a real critical, but in the Prado wetlands area where there's a ton of vegetation. It's kind of a jungle back there. And yeah, we are, we don't do the vector control. There's actually a county vector control department that takes care of it. And they do use chemicals that are not adverse to water quality from a human consumption standpoint. I do not know what those chemicals are, but they are employed during this hottest time of the year. So the vector control bill for me starts to really get expensive around May, and then it starts to become reasonable again in like October. But all during those hot months, yeah, they're spraying a lot of this product out there, and it's effective in controlling the mosquito population, and it's not harmful for the water.
And this may be another question for natural resources, but John, could you talk a little bit about the bird boxes that we employ along the river to control some of the insects?
Sure, yeah. So midge flies, I think, are associated a lot with water in our area, and I think these little buggers are not carrying any kind of disease or anything like that. They're just a little bit of a nuisance to people that might be enjoying one of those fine beers on the shoreline there of La Palma Basin or something to that effect. So what we've done is we know that these critters have a natural predator, and they are these birds. These birds like to eat these flies. So we've launched a program, our natural resource group did, to install bird boxes in areas where the midge fly populations are large. And the idea would be to grow the population of these birds to control the population of the midge flies. And this has been a project that's been ongoing for several years, and it has had some success. But I do know when it gets warm, boy, those midge flies, they still show up in numbers, even though we got those bird boxes out there with those birds that are munching midge flies all day long. And yeah, it can be a challenge.
Thank you, John. I don't see any additional written questions.
Actually, Crystal, this is Pamela. There were two questions that I wrote a response to, but I'd like to answer them to the group.
Absolutely.
All right, one question was asking about the timing for the Anaheim River Walk. And so there's several components of that project that are moving forward. The OC Vibe, which is going to be around the Honda Center, that developer, which is the Samueli Corporation, also owns the Ducks, is planning to have most of that development done by the Olympics, which is 2028. And the city is working very closely with them about meeting that deadline. The Angel development is maybe around the same time frame, maybe a little bit after that. And so that's what's going to be happening around Angel Stadium. Now, the river projects that we're looking at, we don't really have a timeline yet. The city of Anaheim is now applying for grants. We are applying for planning grants to look at the opportunities along the river, even for items such as bridges and impoundment through potentially through dams. And so we're looking at planning for that now. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of permits, so that project is going to be many years down the line. The city of Anaheim is also purchasing a parcel of land right near the Big A from the Orange County from the Orange County Flood Control District, that we can develop a park that might come online in a few years. So that's the answer to one question. And if I can answer one more really quickly, is that okay? Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the other question was asking about our NPDES, National Pollution Discharge Elimination Permit that we have. And of course, many developers have to deal with this. I want to let the audience know that the city of Anaheim is working closely with Orange County Public Works and also with the Orange County Water District about very creative ways that we can deal with the Can you still hear me?
Yes, you froze up for a second there.
Okay, and so I think that answers those two questions, but anybody is welcome to contact me directly if they would like more information.
Thank you very much, Pamela. You are frozen on the screen right now, but we can see and hear you.
All right, great.
We did have one additional question come in, and this is for you, John, regarding any possible runoff into the ocean if we do a first flush to the ocean for water quality reasons.
Yeah, great question, Donald Bentley, good question. So yeah, we there are years when we do lose water to the ocean, absolutely. There are situations when the Army Corps has to release water from behind the dam at flow rates higher than we're able to take, and some of that water is lost to the ocean. And not every year does this occur, but sometimes in years when there's heavy storms that back up right behind one another, or sometimes there'll be a project in the river where a contractor will be working and they shouldn't be, and they let the Army Corps stored up a bunch of water to let them work, and then all of a sudden the contractor's done with their work and they got to release the water real quick. So sometimes that happens too, but those are kind of rare things, but they do happen. As far as the first flush, yeah, for water quality, sure, the first flush is poor water quality, as you can imagine. And you know, ideally I would love to flush that water, and sometimes we do. If we know we're got a wet winter coming, then yeah, it's in our best interest to do it. So it's kind of one of those calls you got to make at the time. If you know it's going to be a dry year, you're going to try and take every drop you can, and even if it's the first flush. So that's kind of how we play that one.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you so much, Pamela, as well. That is all the time we have for today. Thank you, all of you, for participating. I hope you found this webinar useful. And again, we apologize for some of the technical difficulties that you may have experienced. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded and you will receive an email tomorrow afternoon with a link to that recording. And for those of you who submitted questions that may need a little bit more follow-up, we will be sure to follow up with you via email. And if any of you have any further questions, you can always email us at info@ocwd.com, and we will do our best to answer them. Thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful day.